Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about all of the books I read in the month of February and my thoughts. It's gonna seem like I read quite a bit this month, and it's because I read a lot of novellas. So while the quantity of books is quite high, the books were very short, and that's why I got through so many of them. I read a total of 9 books, and most of them are contemporary romances. Some of them are a little bit different, have some other genre mixes in there, but for the most part, it was romance heavy because it is the month of love after all. First, on my Kindle, I read the rest of the Improbable Meet Cute Second Chances series. This is a series of contemporary romance novellas written by popular romance authors, and they are all short stories, very quick and easy to read. I read the first at the end of January and then just completed the series in February because they all took place on or around Valentine's Day. The first that I finished is Time Will Tell by Hannah Bonham Young. This ended up being my favorite of the whole series. It centers around a history teacher in Toronto who discovers a time capsule that her grandmother left her and unveils the history behind it. So I thought this one was really wholesome and full circle despite it being so short, and it was written well. It made me laugh. It had emotional depth. It was a little bit of all the things I enjoy in a romance, so I rated this one 4 stars. I will say I feel like my rating system for novellas is a little bit different than with full-length novels because it is going to be harder to pack a punch in a short amount of time, and with certain things it's not great to rush them. So I do feel like I give them some grace, but at the same time, there's definitely some that I enjoy more than others, so I do like to rate them. I know some people don't bother rating novellas at all. The next is Second Act Romance by Julie Soto, and this is about 2 musical theater co-stars who have a little bit of history and end up getting reunited. But I didn't really enjoy this. I just felt like there was too little romance and too much of a focus on describing the circumstances that brought them back together and theater in general. So I was a bit bored, and I only rated this one 2 stars. Then we have A Play for Love by Trulina Pucci. This one felt a little bit similar to Second Act Romance because it also starts out in like a theater play, but that is just sharing the history between the characters, and then the story progresses into something different. As we went on, I did really like how the story progressed. It goes into sort of like a bucket list date day, and I found myself laughing out loud. I loved the New York City setting. Just something about New York City is going to get me every time. I love it there. And it was a cute ending with a full circle moment. The only thing that I kind of felt was unnecessary was the intimate scene they shared. It felt like an unnecessary addition, and it didn't really add anything to the story, so I rated this one 3 stars. Next is Death to Valentine's Day by Catherine Cowles, and this one is a little bit different than all of the others in the series that I had read at this point. The first 4 are very similar, formulaic type of structure. This one had some mystery elements incorporated because it is about a woman who goes to this party. Her ex's brother is there, who has been pining after her for quite a while, and there is a murderer on the loose somewhere, and then there ends up being a snowstorm that traps them in that house overnight. So this one was really intriguing. I feel like it's hard to build strong side characters and found family in a short story like this, but this one had both. And I felt like the romance was really believable, again, because he had been pining after her for so long, and the history they shared. I could have done without the nickname, personally. I am not always sold on nicknames in books, but besides that, I did find it really intriguing and it had my attention. So I rated this one 3.75 stars. The last of the series is Valentine's Sleigh by Nevessa Allen, which was quite far-fetched. Okay, I didn't know much going into this, but it also is a little bit different because it is a dark romance, but it's meant to be a little bit funny at the same time. And let's just say there's a gravedigger who has freshly dug a person in a grave and ends up having to dig them back out of it, which sounds crazy. That's because it is. It was entertaining, so I will give it that. I loved the female rage, but I just wanted more of it. And there was quite a bit of spice, which I didn't love. It just seems uncalled for. Again, in a short story like this, I'm not into anything that's like insta love or spice because it just feels like it's happening too quickly. But it was a quick and easy listen. I did the audiobook for this one, and you have to suspend disbelief a little bit if you want to enjoy it. That's how I feel. But I did rate it 3 stars. The first 3 of the series I read on my Kindle, and the last 3 I listened to the audiobooks for. All of the audiobooks are also available for free on Audible. And I am glad that I read some digitally and listened to others because, especially in the first 2, there was some different style formatting like emails or text messages. So I find it's easier to follow along when I'm actually reading it. But the audiobooks were also pretty good. They were dual narration. Next, I read Game Changer by Rachel Reed, which is the first book of the Game Changer series that has heated rivalry in it. That is the second book I'm hoping to get to soon because I want to read the book and then watch the show because everybody has been raving and I want to get on the hype train. This one is about Scott and Kip. Scott is a hockey player and Kip is just a regular old guy. He works at a smoothie shop, and Scott goes into the smoothie shop to get a drink and ends up performing well during his game that night. So, as an athlete, being superstitious as he is, he ends up wanting to go back for another smoothie and maybe for other reasons. Maybe for the guy that's working there. But this book was very spicy, so I would definitely go in knowing that if you're planning to read it. I was still rooting for them. I thought that there were just such lovable characters, even the side characters. The character growth that we saw was really nice. There was heated rivalry, foreshadowing, and found family. Those were all the elements I really loved. And the only thing I really didn't like is the relationship starting with physical intimacy was not my favorite. Again, like I just talked about, having spice too quickly in a book and insta love, those sort of things kind of turned me off a bit. But I also wasn't a fan of the miscommunication. I hate when characters assume what the other character is thinking without talking to them. Like, please just have a conversation. There were some immature decisions made, and the writing was very simplistic. So while it was easy to follow, I do prefer more of like a flowery, poetic type of writing when I'm reading books. So with all that being said, I did rate it 3 stars. I am still happy that I read it because, again, I want to read the others in this series. The next that I read is How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates by Shaylee Thompson. This one I actually listened to the audiobook for because I got it through Book of the Month as my February pick. And first of all, dual narration is always going to be the best. I think that or a full cast. So it was pretty good in that regard. And it's a really interesting genre because it is horror mixed with romance. And it is about a woman who is very passionate about both rom-coms and horror movies, and basically goes to this speed dating event that turns into a slasher. It is like nothing I have ever read before, but it was fun. It was kitschy, and I kind of liked how they blended the horror and romantic comedy. I found it to be really entertaining, and I think if you're a fan of either of those genres, you will likely love all of the movie and character references. There were so many. I'm pretty sure I didn't even catch them all, but the ones I did catch, I got a kick out of. This was very cleverly written in a way that had me questioning who the killer was. She writes it in a way that kind of sways you towards certain people at different times, and obviously that is to throw you off so you can't guess it, which is great. I don't want a predictable ending, but at the same time, I'm not the type of person to be thinking of every possible scenario and like trying to put all the clues together. I really want to turn off my brain while I'm reading, so I'm usually not trying to figure it out, but I will say it was not obvious to me. And The only thing I feel like I didn't enjoy so much is that it was slow moving at times and it wasn't always very realistic. There were some things I still had questions about at the end that weren't really answered, but I did give it 3.5 stars because, again, overall it was still entertaining. The last audiobook I listened to is Quicksilver Bonus Scenes Kingfisher's POV by Callie Hart. This follows Quicksilver, but technically you're going in the past, so it covers some battle scenes from Kingfisher's past as well as his point of view of a scene that happens in Quicksilver. So I would say if you liked that book enough and you want some additional insight, this is worth going into. It's not an absolute necessity that I know of. I haven't finished the series yet. I need to read Brimstone next. But I did like the additional insight it provided. I feel like the battle scenes were action-packed and I was surprised at how emotional it was, but I did like that. The audiobook narration is just as good as Quicksilver, so if you liked that, you will probably like this. And I rated it 3.5 stars. Nothing life-changing, but still worth it for me. The final book in my wrap-up is one I finally own physically, and it is Loath to Love You by Ali Hazelwood, which, funny enough, is a collection of 3 STEM-themed novellas. Again, it was just a novella-filled month for me, but this has 3 different stories. It has Under One Roof, Stuck With You, and Below Zero. All of them have a female main character that is a woman in STEM. And again, they're all just contemporary romances. I feel like Ali Hazelwood's writing is very formulaic, and all 3 of these novellas had a lot of the same elements, but she never fails to make me laugh, and I do enjoy her writing. I loved that they were all interconnected. The 3 girls are best friends, and so there is found family, and then that found family just gets expanded on as you go along. The thing I didn't love is the miscommunication. There was a lot of that, assuming they know what the other character's thinking going on in this one. But if I had to rank them, I would rank my number 1 as Below Zero. That was my favorite. Number 2, Under One Roof, and number 3, Stuck With You. Even though I have my ranking, I did just rate this book all as one, and I rated it 3.5 stars. One thing I'm noticing is I haven't rated very many books highly recently, and I'm really craving a 5-star read soon here. So hopefully I've got that in my future. Thank you all for listening to me yap about books yet again, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.